welcome to this episode of Conversation with a Chef. I'm Jo Ritty and I love sharing with you the conversations I get to have with talented and passionate chefs. It's the backstory, if you will, to the food they're putting up. I begin today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, traditional custodians of the lands and airwaves where this conversation took place. Land which was never ceded. Land where communities came together to eat seasonally, locally and without exhausting resources. I pay my respects to their elders past and present and to any First Nations people listening today. Today I'm talking to Jessie Rae Crossley, founder of Locavore Studio in Lilydale. A couple of months ago I was lucky enough to eat at Locavore and it was glorious. For a start, the dining room is beautiful with its cathedral ceiling and rich intertextural nature mural by local graphic artists Sonsie Studios. Head chef Ryan Lynch is putting up delicious dishes that reflect the seasons and the region. Most memorable was the mushroom anolini that was like a warm hug in its cosy, savoury goodness. There's a lot going on out there with the providore, the cafe, the coffee roastery out the back and catering. I briefly met owner and Jessie when I was out there, and I absolutely wanted to hear more about her time cooking on yachts in the south of France and around the world, as well as how, at a relatively young age, she's built up such an impressive business. This conversation is everything I love about hearing chef stories and more. Jessie has cooked for the likes of Harvey Weinstein and the Kardashians, and she once worked 102 days straight cooking 3 meals a day for guests and another 3 for crew. I can absolutely imagine Jessie's adventures in cinematic form, and you should absolutely head out to Locavore and experience all the goodness for yourselves. Thank you. Nice to see you. Yeah.
Now, the girls didn't bring me up to speed on exactly what today's conversation was all about, but I'm assuming it's kind of what we touched on.
Yeah. So generally with Conversation with a Chef, it's what you're doing now, how you got here. I would probably like to hear more about the working on the yachts, and so on. So it's more. It's just a genuine conversation because I'm really, nosy about it.
Yeah, perfect.
And I love to hear people's stories.
Yeah.
So it's that really.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And it's very lo-fi, so I just record it on here.
Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to sort out the whole podcasting, or not podcasting, filming, cooking demonstrations and getting the right speakers. And I'm like,
because you do some cooking classes.
Yes, we used to back in the day. We're thinking about revisiting them probably next year. Just with winter's been quite tight. I'm trying to run a business right now, and winter is very hard. But the cooking classes are great. That's how I kind of started local. Really?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 2015. And the whole idea was based on when I was working on the yacht still. So I did a lot of cooking classes with the guests on the boats, just to help, just to keep their holiday fun. And I really enjoyed it. We were doing pasta classes and just all sorts of fun cooking bits. And in that, I kind of found that a real love for teaching people. And so I knew that yachting wasn't a forever thing, and I was finding it quite difficult being quite on my own, because it is very isolating in the sense that there's so many people coming in and out of the industry that you just start to become friends with someone and then they move off to another boat, and all my family were back here. So I wanted an exit strategy, and I knew that I wanted to open a business, and for me that was a fun idea. So I came back into 2014, got kind of everything together, and then found a studio space just around the corner on the railway line, and it was just like a factory. And me and my dad fitted that out to a big studio kitchen with workstations for people, and then a big demonstration bench as well, where I took the demonstrations, and then it was more of a hands-on. I would show everyone how to start cooking the dish, and then I'd move everyone onto their stations and assist them as they move through the recipes. And that was really fun, but it did actually I found myself getting quite anxious through that whole situation, because there was so many people coming in, and I was very young. I was 23.
Oh wow, okay.
And I was running this business, and I'd been a chef I guess, for a qualified chef for 5 years by this stage, but cooking for 8. And it was just one of those things where I was in my head too much, because you'd have people coming in saying, oh, I went to a cooking class with Gary Cooper in the Yarra Valley, and he told us to do something different, and then that would start ticking away in my head.
That's the problem with teaching, like I say, as a teacher, because you've got an audience all the time, and everyone's got an opinion. Like you are in your head a lot. There's lots of that thinking, and
absolutely,
it's tricky,
very tricky. But it was still, I guess, the start of the journey, because I think we were a year into it, and I had a couple that received a gift certificate for their engagement, and they had come in and did the class, and then approached me afterwards asking if I'd cater their wedding. And I'd only ever catered weddings when I was an apprentice at Earing Station, and I figured, why not give it a go? And it was one of the biggest weddings we'd done. Generally, it was 160 packs shared feasting in the Yarra Valley, and I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And I loved it. The challenge was amazing. I quickly found at that time in my career it was better for me to be locked in a kitchen doing what I love, cooking all of this beautiful food, and then taking it out on site and serving it. And I think that was kind of the precipice for catering, and then from there catering really just took off. And then I had people that attended that wedding that just said, far out, this food is just the best. And then that kind of just all started to lock in moving forward, and then that was when I made the decision that cooking classes for me at that time was just not right. I needed more experience in the industry, and even just as a person.
Oh, absolutely. That's right.
And so from there, me and Mum made the decision to kind of just stop on the classes and go really hard on the catering, and that's what we did. And for the next 3 years, I worked really hard on building some great relationships in the Yarra Valley with not only wineries and their winemakers, but also with wedding venues, and built a really good reputation from there. And then it was in 2017, this space came up for lease, and that was kind of one of the things I was falling short on as a caterer, that I didn't have, an establishment for people to come and see how good we were. They were just going off recommendations. So we figured that would be a good way to showcase what we do, and the people that work for me, and the quality of food. And I had no idea how grand of scale that this simple little cafe was going to be that I just opened a couple of years later, and then it just grew. And then suddenly down the track, 4 years down the track, we found ourselves looking at building a whole new shop to attach to the cafe, and here we are.
I know, it's like a whole little village in here. You've got this,
I know,
but that's really interesting to hear, like the progression of that. And I guess you do, as you become more confident in one aspect, and then then you probably get good people in as well, and you can look at those other things. That's really well done though. Like, it's super impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, but it's funny when you think back. I guess probably never thought about it until now, that things like cooking classes and putting yourself on show in front of a group of people, and at the time you thought it was all this anxiety that was running through your head, but really it was just people skills that I needed to learn, and how to, carry yourself and have the confidence to carry yourself, and know that what you're teaching people
absolutely, and it's to your peers, or to adults, which is, I think, is really difficult. But when I first started teaching in my early 20s as well, to teenagers, I found that really hard, because there's lots of eye rolling, and it's like, and it's about as much learning about how you convey things. Doesn't matter how well you know the topic, conveying that in a way that's going to meet what your audience needs, and in a really logical way, because you know what needs to happen, or I know how to speak French, but learning how to really give them the little bits that they need to put that together for themselves. So it's definitely, I think it's a maturity thing as well, and experience. Which I definitely feel now I could definitely pick up on again. Even just having that those extra years under your belt as well. I'm always so amazed with chefs, because I'm not very practical, so I really do love cooking, but then I think I just do things in my own sort of haphazard way. And a few times when I've been to a cooking class, or I used to volunteer at what's it called? Something fair share.
Yeah.
And the chef said it would demonstrate what we were going to be doing, and just the way they would deal with vegetables and things. I'd be like,
yeah,
it's really impressive.
Yeah.
There's really good practical things that you do to make it easier to do a whole lot of stuff, or to not cut your fingers off or whatever.
Yeah.
And I wonder sometimes, because I think, like, maybe it's just me because I'm not practical or very logical, but do you think that everyone can learn how to cook like that, or do you think there are certain things that there's certain people that are just better at it?
I would say there are certain people that are just naturally better at it. I think not only being a chef working under people, but also having a business, it's certainly a natural skill to some. I think you can still learn. It's just that continuous, like building habits and day in and day out working in the kitchen and learning how to do those processes. Yeah.
I mean, that first wedding that you catered, having really only done it as an apprentice, so where did you begin? Like, how do you just sit down and think, okay, what food, and then how am I going to make it happen? Do you start from, this is what I want to achieve, these are the steps I need to do to get there, or what?
Yeah, I suppose the first step was sitting down with a couple, and we worked together and completely constructed their menu for what they wanted. And perhaps it was probably the experience that I gained from the yachts, from ordering en masse. I was already able to kind of sit down and go, okay, well, this is my menu, this is how many people are coming, what's the portion sizes, and I was able to do all of that ordering, then break down the menu into a prep sheet, which I feel like every chef has already got that skill. They can take a menu, break it down, and then you just kind of work through your processes leading up to the wedding. And then I think the real challenge, which is something I've come so far in the catering team over the last, I suppose it's been 8 or 9 years now, is that, packaging and moving and I don't know, just like moving off site for catering and then setting up and then breaking that back down. We've got such a formula now that there is no way I was anywhere close to that. I was 23 years old when I was catering for this huge wedding, and I just remember once we'd send that last dish out, the pack down and the mess everywhere was like hours to clean up. And now it's like 20 minutes after service is done, the van's packed, everyone's out, and it's like clockwork.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
And then I guess you've got to learn too how to convey that to your staff, or how to how to delegate, how to be thinking about the food, but then also thinking about all the moving parts of staff-wise as well, and how to get that message across.
Yeah, and I was just very lucky in the early days. My head chef now of catering, we were friends before I'd gone overseas, and he had mentioned he'd like to jump in and just do some jobs here and there, anywhere to earn some extra money. And so he was from the very start as well. He was almost there when I was learning, and we were both learning. And then as soon as I had to step into the role of being the boss and let him take over, he took everything that we'd learnt together, and then over the course of more chefs coming in and learning new processes and stuff, it just tightened up even more. So which was great.
But just to go back to before that whole thing happened, did you always think you might like to be a chef?
Yeah, I often talk to Mum about this. So I think she seems to think I was 6 or 7 years old, and I'd be sitting in front of the TV watching all the cooking classes, and I tell her every day I want to be a chef. And we had a school career project, I think in grade, 4, and I'd done it all about me being a chef and created a recipe book and all the things that I was going to have in my restaurant.
Wow.
And so from a very early age, and I was hell-bent on it, I had all of my relatives telling me, you're not going to have a life, it's a very unsocial job, you're going to work really long hours and it's really going to test you. And I was just like, absolutely don't care, like this is what I want to do. And as soon as I hit the age of 14, work experience came in, and I went straight into Yearing Station and absolutely loved it, and they took me on as an apprentice. And so I dropped out of school, finished year 10 and went straight into an apprenticeship.
Wow.
And then I was qualified by 18.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's so young, isn't it?
It is young, and it was a massive culture shock. This little 15-year-old female walking into a kitchen with men 30 plus. And the conversations they're having and the environment was very daunting.
How did you navigate that?
There was a lot of moments that I probably didn't, and I'd have little cries in the back pool room, but I don't know any chef that hasn't done that. I don't know, I just had to adapt, and thankfully I was in a kitchen that there was no screaming and yelling and throwing things and demeaning, like making people feel horrible. There was none of that. I was in a really lucky spot to be growing and learning as a chef, and my very first head chef, Colin Swalwell, who's still at Earring Station as a head chef, he was a fantastic mentor and had so much patience. And even all the other chefs in there, it was almost like they wanted to take you under their wing, and they could see the potential, this young person that had given up doing VCE and just absolutely loved cooking, and they could see that, and they just wanted to foster a good environment for that. And I think I was one of the lucky ones in that situation, because heard some really bad horror stories, to be honest.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then, so even though, it was such a culture shock, and it would have been hard work, it's hard physical work. You're standing all day,
you are.
Or all shift. And so that didn't put you off?
No, it didn't. It was really weird. It was, my mum would often, she would be waiting in the car park past the time I was meant to finish, because we were still doing prep right up until 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and she be like, you've started at 8, you finished at 5, have you had a break? No, I haven't had a break, but it doesn't matter, Mum, I'm learning so much. And it was like that. I just wanted to be there. There was still days where you're like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. But I just wanted to keep learning, and I wanted to be given opportunities to step in, onto sauce section, or like come off as, as a little sidekick chef. I wanted to be stepping up, and I got that opportunity because I just quickly, I did really well, and they could see that. But it's not to say that, things have definitely changed in the industry now. Like, you have to stick to that 38-hour week for apprentices, and you have to give them their breaks. And I know that's the right thing to do, but sometimes I wonder if that hinders them and their growth as a chef. And I know that comes with a lot of complexity and questions and, legalities around, but for me, I wouldn't have wanted to do it any other way.
No, and I think you're right. It's definitely a conversation. It's a hard one to have, because, it feels like we're almost not allowed to talk about the fact that probably it is good to do. You've got to put the hours with anything that you're doing. If you think about if you're learning art or whatever, you've got to put all those physical hours where your body, like the muscles, get that muscle memory. Yeah. But that you're just learning and experimenting. I think it is really hard to do within 38 hours. And that's why a lot of places too now can't afford to teach people how to break down animals, or to fillet fish, or to do all of those things. And I think that's a shame, and I totally understand the reasons behind award rate and paying people properly. Yeah. It is tricky. Yeah. It's tricky.
It is tricky. And I feel like there'd be a lot of chefs, I guess, from my generation that would feel that same way. And it's just learning how to teach the next generation of chefs in this, the opportunity that we've got to give in the time that they've got, and do it well. But like you said, it's really hard when there are so many businesses that are trying to cope through this financial, situation we're all finding ourselves in, and any way that we can get things in cheaper, and rather than getting whole fishes in, like, because you don't need the carcass, because we've only, there's all of these sorts of things that even I'm finding myself in the kitchen going, all right, guys, we really need to save money. We can't, try and indulge ourselves on getting in a big piece of, half a carcass and breaking it down. It's just,
of course.
What it is. Yeah,
of course. And then I guess too, maybe in that new generation, the ones that are going to really succeed and still be top chefs might be the ones that are going home and putting the hours in and just refining those. I mean, you'd have to, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and I think what's really, really good, and something I didn't have as a young chef, is all of these amazing inspirational chefs coming onto social platforms and doing these videos, and you can sit there and learn more on knife techniques and sauce techniques and things that I would have loved to have had that opportunity of that extra bit of education, but I spent the time in the kitchen.
Well, yeah. But then I guess I was just talking to Diana DeCenci in Karen Martini's St George restaurant the other day, and she was saying that a lot of the young ones say they spend a lot of time on social media. You then need to be able to discern who are the people to watch.
Right, yeah.
Like, and not just the number of followers, but that they actually do have the right skills and that what they're talking about in terms of quantity, consistency, all those kind of things.
Absolutely.
I think that's the same with anything with the amount of social media and the amount of internet and AI and everything out there as teachers as well. You've got to really, that's the next thing is to learn is how to filter through that to get the good stuff or the right tools and skills and things.
Yeah. It's a new age though, it's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what do you think it is that you love about it? Because it sounds like you've got a real curiosity for learning. Is it that hospitality side of it where you're making people happy? Is it the creativity? What is it?
I think the first thing is definitely making people happy and creating, that experience for people. That has always been something I loved, and that probably really came into its own when I was on the yachts, because I was cooking for between 6 to 12 people, and it was so intimate, and you came out every meal at the end of the meal for the guest to thank you, and that really encouraged that passion in me, probably more so than ever. And I did bring that back here. And when I started looking at opening a cafe, and with those big catering jobs, I was always involved with a couple, and it was always about custom building their menus and seeing them come up, or having them come up to you at the end of the wedding and just being in awe of what you've just done for them and their guests. That was definitely the passion for me. The creativity is certainly high on the list, but for me it's always been about making someone's experience so special through food, and I do that. I might not be on the pans now, but I do it a lot for my friends and family now, and cooking those intimate meals and so forth. That's for me what it is all about. And also I think giving young people an opportunity to grow and learn in a space that I had when I was growing up. That's been a huge thing about Locavore from the start, is fostering an environment where you don't have any of these horrible people or stresses being thrown at these young people, and giving them a really good chance at learning to be a chef, but loving that job as well, which I got that opportunity. So that's, for me, I never had massive aspirations to be a really Top Gun chef and working Michelin star restaurants or hatted restaurants. I mean, that was obviously there, but it was, I think when I came back from yachts, it was all about how I can help the next generation and do that in a way that was a safe, comforting environment for them to love coming to work and not be absolutely dreading each morning.
Yeah. Let's just talk about the yachts.
Yeah.
So exotic and fun. But how did you get from there? So you did your apprenticeship, and then what happened?
So I finished my apprenticeship, and at that stage wanted to go and try and be working in a Michelin star restaurant. So I went to London. It was a very, very quick, short-lived feeling. Went to London, went and did a few work experience shifts, and was thrown into some pretty hectic situations, and quickly realised this is not where I want to be.
And how do you even get into those? Do people recommend from here? Do you just door knock?
I door knocked. I dropped my resume and door knocked.
How old were you?
I was 19 years old. Yeah. But I don't know, it was just this crazy confidence I had back then. I'm not quite there now. And then I had a conversation with my auntie, and she suggested to do a ski season. And I thought, okay, that's a great idea. It's a bit of fun. I'm still young so I want to get out there. So I joined a company called YOC in Val d'Isère, and did 6 months ski season in France, and worked in a chalet for 12 guests. So it almost kind of really started that career in private chefing. And I absolutely loved that. I got to work with some really great ingredients and just been an amazing environment. And that season was starting to come to an end, and I was sitting in a pub with a few of the other chefs that just continually do seasons, and was asking them what their next summer job was, and a lot of them were mentioning they were heading down to the south of France to get a job on yachts. And so I looked into it and booked all of my courses when I came back to London when I was staying with my aunt, and then flew over to the south of France with 500 euros to my name and nowhere to stay.
So was that Antibes?
I went to Antibes and managed to get chatting to these South African guys in a bar, and they said, if you just cook for us while you're staying, we'll let you have free accommodation. It all was just very serendipitous how this all things kept opening up. So I got there 3 days later after going to all of the agencies to check in. They kind of kept saying to me, if you're not getting day work, you're not going to get a job. And I was on my third day. I had 25 euros left to my name and no return ticket home. And I got a call from a chef that was working on a yacht called Unbridled, and he was a Perth-based chef. And he'd come across my resume. He knew I was young, but he saw all of the chefing competitions I did when I was an apprentice, and my experience, and he just felt like he resonated with his journey as well as mine. So I did a quick 15-minute interview online, and the next minute I knew I was getting flown to Barcelona to join this yacht as the sous chef.
Oh my goodness.
So I was 20 years old, and I got off the flight, called a taxi, still didn't have money to pay for the taxi, so I had to quickly ask someone from the yacht to pay for the taxi. And I was standing there in front of this $80 million yacht, and I was like, what the hell am I doing? And it was only meant to be a 5-week gig. It was for the owner's trip, and they'd met me, and over the 5 weeks that were coming into the galley and having lots of chats with me, and I was cooking food for them, and they had told the captain after 5 weeks that they wanted to keep me on as their sous chef / crew chef. And that was kind of the start of everything. And those 5 weeks were just mental. It was very hard. My chef, even though he was a lovely guy, he was really hard on me. But being on boats, there was so many complexities with how you can run the galley and receiving goods and getting rid of goods and storage of garbage. Like, it's a whole nother playing field. But yeah, he saw a lot of potential in me, and then I was working under him for a year, still on Unbridled, and became really good friends with him and his wife, who was the chief stewardess. And we were travelling it. We were all over the Caribbean. We did all of the Med. We cruised back from the Mediterranean, did a crossing back to Florida. So he went on holidays and I did a whole 3-week crossing, just cooking for the crew on the boat, which was quite an experience. And they approached me and said that they were wanting to go home and start a family. And he said that he wanted me to step up and be the head chef. So after a year, I'd just turned 21, and I had the captain and the owner sitting down with me. Mind you, the owner of the yacht was William Wrigley, so Wrigley's Chewing Gum. Oh. He's in Forbes, he's a billionaire, and he was sitting down with me and the captain, and he said, I want you to be my head chef. And next thing I knew, I was the head chef of this $80 million yacht, cooking for a lot of affluent people as a 21-year-old.
How many cabins does that have? So you're saying 10 to 12 people? Would that be how the guests?
Yep, so there was 4 cabins. There was 4, 5, 6 cabins for the guests, and then we had 4, 5, 6 cabins for the crew. So we had a crew of 13, 2 chefs, and then anywhere up to 12 guests on board at any one time. And
how do you go with, hours worked and time off in that sort of situation?
So, as hours were really just dependent on whether you had guests on or not. When you're during season, you can just we had the boss trip for 5 weeks straight. You didn't get a day off. You worked all the way through, and you were either the early chef or the late chef, and it was roughly about 12 hours a day for 5 weeks straight. And then you'd have a quick break to turn over the yacht and take on another charter group. And sometimes that break would be half a day, and sometimes it would be a couple of days. It just depended on whether you needed to move the boat to another location to pick up the guests. So the first boat I worked on was pretty relaxed in the sense that it was mostly the owner's use, and he would come on maybe once every 1 to 2 months for a couple of weeks, and then when we didn't have the guests on, it was just purely Monday to Friday, 8 till 4, cooking for the crew, lunch and dinner, cleaning, reorganising and restocking type of deal. The second boat that I worked on was a lot worse. So I worked 102 days straight. I wanted to take on a tougher role to try and push myself. So that was a sole chef position, still with 12 guests, but 9 crew, slightly smaller yacht. And I started the season and it was 102 days straight, 19-hour days. I was getting up at sometimes 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock if we were in port. I'd get off the boat, go straight to the bakery, wherever we were, come back and just start getting ready for guest breakfast, then crew breakfast, then guest lunch, then crew lunch, then guest dinner, then crew dinner. And that was my day, and there was no breaks.
Do you not lose your mind a bit after 102 days of just doing that same thing?
Yeah. It was, calendar was up on the board. You were marking down the days until you were done. But I just feel like you had a whole crew of people that were in it together.
Yeah.
And you just made it as fun as it could be. There were certainly times where it was really hard, but you just find yourself getting into a formula, and it's just rinse and repeat all the time. And there would be, the guests, because that was purely a charter yacht, guests would come on for 5 or 6 days. Then you'd have, they'd step off the yacht probably about 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the morning. Then you'd turn over the yacht and pick up the next day. So you did have a night off, but you were working right up through to clear out the fridges and get everything ready for provisions to come back on the boat.
And it does it have to be fine dining? Is it?
The first yacht everything was fine dining from lunch onwards. Breakfast and snacks were very casual, and it depended whether they still wanted. A lot of people would want family style shared feast for lunch, and then dinner would always be plated, and then it would just really be dependent on the guest coming in. So some of the guests we had were just really lovely families from New York, and often we'd have a very, very affluent family coming in from Russia. Then we had Harvey Weinstein on the yacht for a week, and that was an experience.
Right.
This is before the whole Me Too movement happened. So I cooked for Harvey Weinstein for a week. And then he brought on the Kardashians, so we had to cook lunch for them, but they just wanted a very relaxed lunch, and we got sent their dietitian's list of what they can and can't.
Did you have much of interaction with these people?
I welcomed them on the yacht. The whole crew would welcome them on the yacht, and I would go up and speak to Harvey every now and then about, this is the menu I'm creating tonight. Are you happy with this? Do you need to make any changes? Those were really the only interactions. The first yacht that I worked on, the family were very, very interactive, and they'd always be in the galley having a chat, and they were a lovely family. But it just depended on the guest. But we served some very, very rich Russian lawyers, and the mayor of Kiev came on at the time. And
oh my goodness. Yeah.
So I've got some very fun, interesting stories.
Yeah. And how are you coming up with those menus? How are you getting those ideas?
And especially as a young person, because and that's the thing, I didn't really have a lot of restaurant experience. I was working 6 months prior to that in the chalets, and then mostly on my own. So I spent a lot of time on Gourmet Traveller, and really just researching. Every time we were in a new port, I'd have a whole new set of cookbooks come in, and I was just very eager back then. And I think I really worked with the client as well, because a lot of them were either American or Russian, or and they had particular cuisines that they wanted to stick to. So that was good, because I had a little bit of a direction in those moments, and I'd either get those books out and kind of come up with things. And Peter Gilmore was a big inspiration at one stage, and I think I went right through the key book at one stage for one of the bosses. But it was just a lot of research and a lot of moments where I could try and sit down and quickly read up, or when I'd finished and the galley was clean, I'd spend a good hour every night just reading through books and making notes and recipes.
It's incredible. You've lived several lifetimes, it sounds like. Did you keep, so you keep lots of notebooks? Do you still have those?
I still do, they're in storage, which is nice. I do often, I've often thought about going back for a winter season here and there, but I just don't know if my body could cope with the hours now.
Yeah.
Because it is something that...
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So did you get to see a lot, or were you just working so much?
No, I definitely got to see... I was thankful for the first yacht that I worked on. We were on the main deck level. So I had big windows looking out wherever we were. Yeah. And when we were in port, the owners were really firm on me going to the boulangerie every morning to get fresh bakery, baked goods and things. So I got the experience where I got to walk through those cobblestones and smell my way to the bakery and go to the markets every morning. If we were in Italy, when we were in Capri, the boss wanted me to go ashore and go to the food market and get as much local produce as possible and cook him a huge feast. And that was really cool as a chef. That's part of the reason why you go to Europe, is to immerse yourself in the food.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I got to do that.
Yeah.
There were times where you'd be looking out the port window and everyone's having fun and you're like, oh, that looks amazing out there. Turn back, keep cooking.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, and like I mentioned, the first yacht, I was on the first yacht for 3 years. And so there were a lot of times in that where the boss was on and off, and wherever we'd move the boat to for him to jump on board, we would be there for 2 or 3 weeks. So I lived, we were in Tahiti for 8 months stationed, and Mexico and Auckland. We were in Auckland for 8 months while the boat got a refit, and it was, we were everywhere, and I got to experience it, which was great.
It is amazing. Yeah. And so you have just got back from overseas. When you're overseas, is it about the food, or is it?
It was a big part, and I made sure that the places that we were going to were either places I didn't really get to immerse myself in fully. So we spent a long time in Puglia, going to all of the food markets, and I did a lot of cooking there as well. We went to restaurants, but it was a moment in time for me to get back to researching, cooking, experimenting, and working with beautiful produce again, but doing it in beautiful spots. And we went to Greece, and that just reopened a whole new avenue. I wasn't really into Greek food until now. No, I love it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, right, because I feel like I'm not really into Greek food. I just can't quite get although I did have a really amazing dinner at Salona in Richmond, and I felt like that was a bit different to the other Greek food that I've tried, but it must be different again in Greece.
It's very traditional and very basic, but they just nail it.
Yeah.
It's yummy.
Yeah.
But it was a great trip for just re-inspiring me, because business is awesome, but I haven't been in the kitchen working. I fill in the occasional shift, but it is all about working on the business now. And there was a time there where I lost inspiration pretty bad, and I didn't even know why I was doing it. So part of this trip was just re-inspiring myself in cooking, and I feel like it has done that, and I've got a lot of recipes hopefully to put into a book one day. But it's tricky stuff.
That sounds like you've got several books in you.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Just got to collate them in some way.
So just to finish with, because you've had a lot of experiences and started so young, the question I ask is, what would your advice be to young people who are starting out as chefs? And lately that's changed a little bit to be, how do you encourage young people to become chefs? So either of those questions, if you have any answers.
I think for me, I would suggest doing your research and finding a kitchen that resonates, or a restaurant that resonates with you, and you really utilise doing that work experience, because you get a really quick gist of whether it's for you or not, and if you're up to the fast pace. That's kind of the first one. And then I guess the second one is not letting any outside, I had so much of my family and friends telling me it just wasn't the right choice. It's not something you want to do, and you've got to be very prepared to do the hours and work very hard, and if that's already there, then it's just about finding the right kitchen for you, the right environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries, I hope that was okay.
It's perfect. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Conversation with a Chef with Jessie Rae Crossley at Locavore Studio. If you liked what you heard, you can jump on their Instagram at Locavore_studio. That's LOCAVORE_studio to see all the delicious food. If you'd like to hear more stories from other chefs, I'm on Instagram at Conversation with a Chef. That's all one very long word. You can read the chat and become a subscriber at www.conversationwithachef.com. And of course, you can follow me on Apple and Spotify podcasts. You could even leave a review. That would be lovely, as long as it's a good one. I would love it if you told a friend about my chats, because that's still the best way to get the stories out there. Once again, thanks so much for listening. Have a great day and bon appetit.